Think 31,000 years before the invention of antibiotics, a child had their leg sawed off with a sharpened rock. And they did not die. The wound healed. The bone remodeled. The infection that should have turned their blood septic within hours never arrived. This child, whose surgery was performed in the damp darkness of a Borneo cave, with tools that would make a modern surgeon recoil, walked again. You assume this is impossible. Every textbook you have ever read confirms it. Before sterile operating theaters, before 4 drips, before the discovery of penicillin, a major injury was a death sentence. The body could not cope. The pathogens were too numerous. The shock was too severe. The fossil record disagrees. Modern hospitals, with gleaming surgical steel and climate-controlled recovery wards, still lose up to 40% of major limb amputation patients to post-operative infection. This child, whose leg was removed with a sharpened stone in a jungle cave 31,000 years ago, had an infection rate of 0. How? This is not a question about ancient medicine. There was no medicine. No herbs that could prevent sepsis. No spiritual rituals that could close a wound. The answer is not in what these people knew. The answer is locked inside the human body itself, in systems that modern medicine has almost completely forgotten exist. And across the ocean, buried beneath a bone-dry desert that has not seen water in millennia, another skeleton carries an even stranger secret. Deep inside the marrow of a 5,500-year-old man, scientists discovered something that should not be there. Microscopic glass. Jagged. Crystalline. Alien in appearance. Diatoms. Single-celled algae that exist only in water. Ocean glass, sealed inside the deepest vault of a human skeleton, in a place where rain has not fallen for thousands of years. How did the ocean get inside his bones? The answer to both mysteries, the impossible amputation and the impossible glass, reveals something profound about the architecture you carry inside you right now. Something your comfortable modern existence has put to sleep. The body does not need you to save it. It saves itself. The prehistoric immune system did not function like yours. It was not a passive defense waiting for pharmaceutical reinforcement. It operated as an autonomous assault force, a swarm of microscopic hunters deployed the moment tissue integrity was breached. White blood cells, leukocytes, functioned as frontline reconnaissance units. They did not wait for infection to establish. They anticipated it. The instant the stone blade severed flesh, these cells flooded the wound site, releasing antimicrobial peptides that corroded bacterial membranes on contact. Behind them came the osteoblasts. Bone builders. Microscopic construction workers that swarmed the jagged edge of the severed femur and began laying down new calcium matrix. Not in weeks. In days. The body was sealing itself from the inside out, bridging the void with biological scaffolding before pathogens could colonize the exposed marrow. This was not healing as you understand it. This was rapid structural reconstruction, an autonomous nanite swarm rebuilding the chassis without external input. But the immune response alone cannot explain what happened in that Borneo cave. Because 31,000 years ago, this child did not simply survive a wound. They survived the amputation itself. The conscious experience of a sharpened stone grinding through muscle, tendon, and bone. Modern humans go into irreversible shock from car accidents. From falls. From surgical procedures performed under total anesthesia. The nervous system overloads. Blood pressure collapses. The heart stops. This child endured a fully conscious limb removal with no anesthetic, no blood transfusion, no postoperative monitoring. And their body did not shut down. Step back 31,000 years. The Great Pyramids do not exist. Writing does not exist. The concept of infection does not exist. And yet, somewhere in the absolute darkness of a Borneo rainforest, where the only light comes from fire and the only sound is the wet resistance of stone against bone, a small human body is performing emergency surgery on itself, from the inside out. The nervous system acted as a selective override valve. Pain signals that would cripple a modern human were filtered, suppressed, rerouted. The body prioritized survival over sensation. It chose to live, even if living meant feeling everything. This was not primitive biology. This was pressure-tested engineering. 300,000 years of evolutionary trauma had calibrated every system for exactly this scenario. But the Borneo child is not the only impossible survivor in the fossil record. Beneath the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, archaeologists unearthed a skeleton that rewrote forensic science. A man who drowned in a desert. The diatoms sealed inside his bone marrow told the story his skeleton could not. Diatoms are algae. Microscopic organisms that build shells of pure silica, biological glass. They exist only in water. And they were embedded deep inside the porous matrix of this man's femur, locked there for 5,500 years. The mechanism is violent. When the lungs inhale water instead of air, the pulmonary alveoli, microscopic pressure bulkheads designed to exchange oxygen, rupture under the force. Seawater floods the circulatory system. And with it come the diatoms. Jagged. Indestructible. Carried by the arterial current into the deepest, most protected tissue the body possesses. The bone marrow. Diatoms cannot dissolve. They cannot be metabolized. They embed. They persist. And 5 millennia later, they testify. This is how the prehistoric body operated. Not as a victim of trauma, but as an archivist of destruction. When it could not survive, it recorded. It locked the exact microscopic evidence of its death into its deepest vault and preserved it. Not for rescue. Not for justice. For witness. The body does not just die. It testifies. But to understand why these bodies were so different from yours, you must understand what made them. And that means stepping back into the world that forged them, the most hostile biological environment in Earth's history. The Paleolithic biome was not a world. It was a crucible. A hyper-hostile matrix of uncatalogued bacterial threats, jagged terrain designed to tear flesh, and apex predators engineered across millions of years to kill. Feel the pressure first. The La Brea tar pits, not water, not mud, but thick, viscous petroleum seeping from the Earth's crust. One misstep and the tar grips. It does not release. It pulls. Millimeter by millimeter, sealing off oxygen, filling the lungs with heat and weight. The La Brea pits operated for 50,000 years as a self-sustaining predator trap. One stuck herbivore would bait dozens of carnivores to their slow, viscous deaths. An entire ecosystem, digested over epochs. A single murdered woman was tossed into this carnivorous sinkhole. Her bones still carry the signature of deliberate human violence. Other humans used this death trap as a weapon. Feel the cold. Pleistocene glaciation cycles buried entire continents under kilometers of ice. Survival meant burning through calories faster than they could be replaced. The body learned to ration. To slow. To persist on almost nothing. Feel the darkness. Peat bogs that sealed over bodies before they could decay. No oxygen. No light. No sound except the wet compression of organic matter pressing down from above. Claustrophobia measured in millennia. And then, the sound. The wet crunch of a sharpened stone scraping against a live human femur. The silence of a Borneo cave so absolute that the only noise is the body's own desperate resistance. For 300,000 years, the human body was pressure-tested against extinction. Every cell, every nerve, every immune response was forged in this crucible. And then we escaped. We built walls. We invented antibiotics. We stopped dying. And in doing so, we may have put something to sleep. These ancient people were not primitive versions of you. They were not fragile. They were not inferior. They were biologically superior survival engines. Their bodies could override cataclysmic trauma that would put a modern human into fatal shock within minutes. They healed wounds that would kill you before the ambulance arrived. They endured pain that would stop your heart. And their bodies did something yours has forgotten how to do. When survival was impossible, when the lungs filled with water, when the predator's jaws closed, when the tar sealed over, the body did not simply fail. It recorded. The diatoms in that Atacama skeleton are not a forensic anomaly. They are a message. Proof that the human body is the ultimate archivist. It does not just die. It permanently stores the exact microscopic environment that killed it, locking the evidence into its deepest, safest vault for anyone who cares to look. 5,500 years later, his bones still carry the signature of the exact water that drowned him. The body does not forget. Even when you do. You carry this architecture inside you right now. The same immune swarm. The same pain override systems. The same capacity to endure and record. It has not disappeared. It has not evolved away. It is dormant. If your ancestors could survive having their skulls drilled with seashells and their limbs severed with sharpened stones, what latent, unkillable resilience have you put to sleep with your comfortable modern life?